But your friend might be trying for so long, and then he reaches a terror barrier at a specific level. Again, I specialize in this. I've seen thousands of people. I've seen hundreds break through, and I've seen thousands run away because they're not willing to face the devil at that level. They're not willing to break through the emotional experiences that they need to. They're not willing to experience the experiences they need to experience in order to get higher level consciousness experiences. They're not willing to look in their own depth within their own past and journey to see where the current problem that they're having started and do that work so they can actually move forward. They're not willing to let go of the past in order to embrace the future, but it's not a conscious level thing. It's not an ego thing. It's a neo thing with the divine, with consciousness, with awareness, and we can't let go of the past unless we receive the deeper spiritual lesson that it contains. We can't level up unless we learn the lessons at this level. And the ego will try to, let's level up, which it really isn't doing the work right now. The ego trying to level up is distracting. It's actually moving backwards. Any resistance equals suffering. Resistance itself isn't suffering. If you accept that you're resisting or that there's resistance, there's forward movement, there's connection. Even resistance needs to be connected to the source as well. Even human suffering, especially human suffering, needs to be connected to the source. Anything outside the light of God, anything independent from God, equals suffering. It's like the game Operation. I don't know if you remember that game. When I was a kid, there's a game called Operation. I think it was like 8D batteries. And then you had this little like tweezers that had metal on it. And you're supposed to, it's this game Operation. So this like, it's like a red rectangle plastic. And then they had this like yellow clown guy, it looked like, on there. And there was like this rubber band in there, this bone, plastic bone. And you had to use these tweezers to pick these things out. And if you touch the metal on metal, it would buzz, and then you'd lose your turn, and you'd hand over the tweezers to somebody else. And it was a pretty fun game, nerve-wracking as a kid, but it wasn't PTSD. It was fun. It was fun. But that's kind of like what life is like. Anytime you go too far away from the source, it will buzz like that, but that buzzing's actually feedback, which is actually suffering, which is actually loneliness, which is actually fear, which is actually anything that causes a human to suffer. Stuck, loneliness, fear, sadness, all these things are without God. And if you bring God to all these things, they can't remain suffering. Suffering is only, like, if God was a circle and everything outside the circle, that's where suffering would be. But if you expand the circle, then there's no suffering there. And if suffering's outside that circle and you expand that circle, but if suffering's outside that circle and you expand that circle, and if you keep expanding that circle, where's the suffering? Where there's suffering, there's no God, and where there's God, there's no suffering.